wish I've been doing this for 20 years. I wish I knew about this when I first started, because I really think I could have truly impacted people so much more and given people hope and an opportunity and a chance to be better, and not just exist. So thank you again for joining us. To get started, what we're going to do is I'm going to bring somebody on that is brand new to this protocol. I think today may be day 19. I could be wrong, but Mark found this protocol through someone that he found on social media, and he has had a profound, life-changing experience, so much so that he wants to come share it with y'all. So I want to let him tell you his story. Again, this is not scripted. I've not paid Mark. He has willingly volunteered to come on and tell his story. So Mark, thank you so much. If you want to come on and just kind of share with everyone what your experience has been. Tell us a little bit about what your history was before you got started, and kind of why you reached out to Linda.
Yeah, so I travel a lot between Florida and Ohio, and I have a dad who's in pretty bad shape. He's now on insulin. He's been diabetic for a long time, and he honestly didn't take care of it. And now he's bedridden and dementia, and I can go on and on. The complications that's arisen from it. And my own journey is, I kind of ebb and flow. I get down to a certain A1C level, and I feel a sense of, okay, I got this beat, and I ignore it. Next thing I know, back to the grindstone again. And I knew it was probably going up. I have a Dexcom. I literally turned off the alerts because it was bugging me. And I'm driving up to Ohio, and one of the ladies I'm friends with, graduated with my wife back in the day, she had posted about her husband and how he was also type 2 like me. And he had gone from 8.9 down to 5.0, and he's completely off everything, metformin and whatever he was taking. That inspired me. And I'm, at this point, I'm just on metformin, and I take a lot of it. And so I want to learn about it. And we met at her shop, her and her sister. They both do this, and they explained the products and had me try the Unimate. And also then a little bit later, we tried the Balance because I was getting ready for a meal. And I literally watched my glucose at the beginning of our conversation. It was at 312. Within 2 hours, it dropped down to 213. So that, got my dad, okay. And so we left, and I definitely was all in on it. I got a home A1C kit that you can test, and I was at a 9.8. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've got to address this. I've got to keep my eyes open and face reality.
Mark, how long have you been diabetic? I'm sorry.
I've been diabetic 25, 30 years.
Okay, and you've been on metformin and insulin, or just metformin?
Just metformin.
Okay.
I take 2,000 milligrams, 1,000 twice a day. Okay. Anything higher than, I got to start taking a shot, and I don't want that. And so, and you hit it right. It was 19 days ago. And my running 3-day average, anybody that does the Dexcom knows what I'm talking about. It was, I think, around 306, and I'm down now to in the 130s. And after the first week, it was down to 198, and then it got down to around 130. Hovers a little bit, but I think I found my sweet spot for now. And what excites me the most is my A1C now is at 8.9, which is even a little bit lower than the last time you and I talked, Shannon. And at the pace I'm going, I'm a numbers guy. I know within another 10 weeks, I'm going to be under 6. And I will keep doing this. And as a result of this new regimen that I'm on, I'm more cognizant of what's going into my system, watching those carbs, The two sisters I referred to did a great job of giving me some education behind that. It takes a little bit more work at the grocery store to pay attention to what you're doing. What I thought was good was not good. The fruit I thought was good is not good. And I'm drinking the Unimate in the morning, and I sip on it till around lunchtime, and then I add the balance to my biggest meal, which is lunch. And I sip on the Unimate, and it gets me through the day. And I got to tell you, the beauty of the balance, and I know I'll let you talk about that, Shannon, is it keeps my glucose from spiking after lunch. It goes up a little bit; it's inevitable, but it keeps it regulated. And as a result, I'm not nearly as tired. I'm not nearly as sluggish. I'm not getting that carb coma in the afternoon. And the brain fog is lifting, and I've got more energy. As a result of more energy, I'm back to power walking once or twice a day. And it's just really kickstarted me into the right direction. And I'm really looking forward to 10 weeks from now when it's time to go back to my endocrinologist. I'm going to be doing cartwheels going in and going out because I know I'm going to get a good report.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think it's just, it's just speaks volumes that when you find something that really starts to help get things started, really sometimes you just need something to just kind of help spark, right? And because of that motivation that you saw in your glucose going down, it's inspired you to change your food. It's inspired you to quit snacking. It's inspired you to start walking again. All of these things start to happen because of really just needing something to help get you going. And unfortunately, most people just get handed a medication to get them going, where the medication is just what keeps them stuck. It's just band-aiding it. So kudos to you. You're an inspiration. Thank you for sharing your story. And we'll have to have you back on, Mark, to kind of tell us where you're at in 10 weeks. And I know you've said you've lost a little bit of weight. It's not even about the weight. The weight is just happening as a side effect of you correcting all of these things that have been going on for so long.
6 pounds for what it's worth.
Wow. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and taking the time. And thank you for inspiring us and motivating us. Guys, you can see that literally anybody, even somebody that's been suffering from this for 20 years, can take 2 packs that we're going to talk about tonight and profoundly change his life. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, now, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to bring on one of my dear friends, Mikkel Offer, and I butcher her name every time. I can't roll my tongue like I'm supposed to. So Mikkel, forgive me, but she is going to come on and talk about Weight Set Point. And I'm extremely excited because this is a topic that is very confusing for a lot of people and very, very frustrating when, by gosh, I want to be at this weight and your body's going to fight you tooth and nails. So let's learn about why. Why is everyone different? Why does everyone have a different set point? So I will turn it over to you. Guys, we'll go through this. Then I'm going to talk about the protocol. Then we'll have a live Q&A. If you have questions, hang on at the end and we'll try to do our best to answer them.
Oh, thank you so much, Shannon. And hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. We're going to talk about a subject that I have been absolutely obsessed with for quite a while now. Shannon explained it briefly. It's actually called your personal fat threshold. And what I'm going to explain is how this can impact your probability for getting sick. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I have a little PowerPoint, just so that you know we're going to be going through some really technical stuff. I'm going to try and simplify it and really talk about it in a way that you understand. And hopefully, Shannon, I think we're going to have some time for Q&A after you've discussed the protocol, correct? Yeah, she's nodding. So that's great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, if that's okay with everybody. And Shannon, I'll just ask you if you can see that. Are you able able
Not
to
yet.
see,
Yes, yes. Yep,
you're able to see my
Yes, ma'am.
PowerPoint? And it looks like a full screen.
you got it.
Okay, lots of bright colors to keep us nice and awake tonight. All right, so today we're talking about the personal fat threshold and why metabolic health differs between individuals. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to start with a quick little thought experiment for everybody. Let's imagine two people, and they're about the same age, they weigh about the same. If they went to the doctor, their BMI would be almost identical, but one of them develops type 2 diabetes in their early 40s, and the other one remains relatively metabolically healthy for decades. So what explains the difference? And for years, we assumed the answer was simple and that it was body weight. But when researchers started studying metabolism more closely, they discovered something surprising. Some people develop metabolic disease at a relatively low weight, and others remain relatively metabolically healthy, even when they're holding significantly more body fat. So the real question becomes, if weight alone doesn't explain your metabolic health, what does? And today I'm introducing that concept that helps explain this, and it's called your personal fat threshold. I'm having problems speaking my words this evening, it seems. Now, your personal fat threshold is the idea that each person has a different capacity to safely store fat in their fat tissues. So as long as excess energy can be stored safely in fat cells, metabolism can remain relatively normal. But when that storage capacity is exceeded, fat begins accumulating in your organs like your liver and your pancreas. And that's when metabolic dysfunction happens. So people with the same body size can have very different insulin sensitivities, very different liver fat, and a very different diabetes risk. So the core idea is that each person has a limit as to how much fat they can safely store in their adipose or in their fat tissue. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So let's get on to this concept that you have your fat cell. As your fat cell expands, eventually it's not going to be able to expand anymore, and fat starts to creep out into other organs, and that's when the problem starts to happen. Now, BMI is a very, very incomplete missed mark on the metabolism scale. So it's useful for population studies, but it doesn't tell us much about metabolic physiology. Two people, as we discussed, can have exactly the same BMI, but one can be metabolically healthy and the other one might already have insulin resistance. And this is because BMI tells us how much weight someone carries, but it doesn't tell us where the fat is being stored. And where that fat is being stored turns out to matter much more than how much fat someone has. So BMI doesn't tell you if you have fat in your liver, your pancreas, your organs, or simply in your fat cells. And a person whose fat cells can expand less can hit their fat threshold much, much earlier, even when their BMI looks normal. And a whole lot more can remain metabolically healthy, even if their BMI is a little bit higher or off the chart. So let's get into fat cell expansion. Now, the body stores fat in specialized cells called adipocytes. Don't worry, there's not going to be an exam on this later. You don't need to remember these fancy words. But when we consume excess energy, these cells, these adipocytes, get larger and they store fat as triglycerides to keep the excess fat out of the organs. So this expansion of the fat cell is actually protective to the body. Fat cells act like a metabolic buffer, so to speak, and they keep fat away from the organs that are sensitive to it. But adipocytes or fat cells can only expand so much. And eventually they reach their storage capacity. And at this point, the body can no longer store fat safely in its fat or its adipose tissue. And that's where we cross the personal fat threshold. So excess fat is more likely to escape into circulation and deposit what we call ectopically outside the fat cell and into the organs. And this is when the fat in the liver starts to accumulate. So the liver fat starts to climb. So this slide shows the key moment. One side of the slide is where fat is stored safely. But once that threshold is exceeded, fat begins to accumulate elsewhere, which again, I hope makes sense. I'm going to explain it a little more with an image that might resonate a little bit more. Think of your fat tissue like a closet. And some people have a really large closet and some people have a really small closet. And as long as there's room in the closet, everything gets neatly stored. But once the closet is full, things start piling up on the floor and in the hallway and on the furniture. And in this analogy, all the fat outside the closet represents your organs. And some of the most important organs are the liver, the skeletal muscle, and the pancreas. And when fat is stored outside the fat cells and in the organs, it's called ectopic fat deposition. Again, not sure why I'm having such problems with my words tonight. But ectopic fat deposition, fat stored in the organs and the muscle and the liver. Now, fat adaptation occurs in two different ways. So the first one is what we call hypertrophy. And that's where existing fat cells simply get larger. And as they get larger, they get more stressed. The second way that fat cells can adapt is by a process called hyperplasia. And this is where the body creates new fat cells. So people who generate new fat cells tend to tolerate fat storage better, which means that a system that relies mostly on hypertrophy, where the fat cell expands, reaches its threshold much sooner. So people who make more fat cells are those ones that can appear fatter, yet slightly metabolically healthier when they are fatter. The majority of people experience hypertrophy as compared to hyperplasia, or the majority of people in North America. So one of the first organs that's affected, as I've discussed before, by this fat spillover is the liver. And when fat accumulates inside liver cells, it interferes with insulin signaling. Now, this is a very scientific couple of slides, and you're welcome to read all the science around it. I'm simply going to explain it so that it's easy to understand. Hepatocytes are the liver cells. Now, normally, insulin tells the liver when to stop producing glucose. But when the liver becomes fatty, it begins to ignore the signal. So the liver continues to release glucose into the bloodstream. And this is one of the earliest signs of insulin resistance. Now, this in turn leads to something called the twin cycle hypothesis. And the liver starts to accumulate fat, and this fat is exported from the liver into the bloodstream. And it's exported as VLDL, which you might have heard of as part of your LDL cholesterol number. Now, some of that fat is delivered into the pancreas. So now the liver's getting fat, and in turn, the pancreas gets fat. And when fat builds up in the pancreas, insulin secretion becomes impaired. So the pancreas, the cells, the beta cells of the pancreas are responsible for making insulin. And as the pancreas accumulates fat and gets fattier, insulin secretion becomes harder and harder. So now two things start to happen simultaneously. The liver is releasing too much glucose, and the pancreas is producing too little insulin to even try and deal with the glucose. And these two cycles feed and reinforce each other over and over, pushing glucose even higher. So this is the physiological sequence of metabolic disease and how fat storage and your specific fat storage can drive your risk for metabolic disease and type 2 diabetes. So as we've discussed, your adipose storage, your fat storage expands. Eventually, we all reach our personal fat threshold if this process is continually pushed. Fat begins to accumulate in the liver. Insulin resistance develops. This in turn leads to pancreatic dysfunction, which in turn leads to metabolic chaos and type 2 diabetes. So this isn't all doom and gloom, and I know you might think this is bad news, but one of the things that I really wanted to focus on today was reversal. And the encouraging part of the story is that this process can often be reversed and can be quite simply reversed. Now, simple doesn't mean easy, but it does mean simple. Now, we know that reducing liver fat, which is the fat that's stored ectopically outside the fat cells, can really begin to restore insulin sensitivity in the liver, and beta cell function can improve in the pancreas, which is amazing. And even modest weight loss can significantly reduce liver fat. So you don't need to necessarily change your BMI in order to reduce that ectopic fat in the liver. And we know that when organ fat decreases, metabolic function can improve dramatically. And this isn't always what people want, but the target is organ fat reduction. It's not what we look like naked in the mirror. Although all of us, or the majority of us, that's our main focus. What we really want is to be skinny on the very, very inside in our organs. So what helps us to stay below this threshold? And this is where we're going to pause for a minute, and we're going to do a little bit of a self-audit. And there's 3 questions that I like everybody to ask themselves when it comes to, am I able to keep myself below my personal fat threshold? Number 1 is sleep. Are you getting between 7 to 9 hours on a consistent basis with a good sleep schedule? Are you strength training? Do you regularly create that glucose sink that muscle provides? And strength training, we need to do that about 3 times a week. And most importantly, and I know Shannon's going to discuss that a little later, is fiber quality. Are we getting enough fiber? We want more than 9 grams a day at least, and building our meals around minimally processed, high fiber foods. Now, I want everybody to look at themselves and see which of these 3 you need to work on the most. So I'm going to ask you, if you need to work on sleep, put a 1 in the chat. If you need to work on your strength, put a 2 in the chat. And if you need to work on your fiber or on your diet intake, put a 3 in the chat. And I'm just going to pull the chat up, and I'm going to see who's focusing on what. And wow, a lot of people are 1, 2, all 3. So it's good to do the self-audit and to say, hey, where am I able to improve? What can I build on to give me more leverage to stay below that personal fat threshold? Oh, wow. Lots and lots of people, even more than 1, 2, and 3, 1s, 2s. So it's really different and really personal for absolutely everybody, which is fantastic. That's what we want. We want to be able to create your lifestyle program, not a lifestyle program that we need to try and fit and wangle into everybody. So let's talk a little bit more about what keeps us below the threshold. So I look at 3 things that we can do. Number 1, what can we measure? Number 2, what can we reduce? And number 3, what can we build on? So people often ask, what tests should I do? And there's lots of them. And some of them your doctor might do, some of them your doctor might not do, and you might have to ask for. But some really important ones are your fasting insulin and your fasting blood glucose. You also want to know your triglycerides, which is that fat storage in your blood. ALT, which is one of your liver markers to tell you about your liver fat, and your waist measurement, your waist circumference or the change in your waist circumference, because that also tells us how much ectopic fat, how much organ fat we're storing, because that belly fat is the most dangerous, most inflammatory fat. So the things that we want to reduce our poor eating habits. Yes, we're all going to have an indulgence now and then, but we want to make them very irregular, and we have ways to mitigate them. Again, Shannon's going to chat with us about that in a little bit. Low muscle mass. If you have low muscle mass, you need to work on that. So you want to reduce your low muscle mass. You want to reduce those nights where you have poor sleep, and you want to reduce the amount of time you're sitting and doing nothing. So other than attending amazing science calls like this one, all those times we spend sitting, scrolling on our phone, maybe it's time to go for a walk. And the opposite side of that is, what can we build? We resistance train to build muscle. We move regularly. We work on our diets. We make sure we're getting adequate protein. We're getting enough fiber in our diet, and we're using the tools that we have around us in order to do that. And we're maintaining sustainable, achievable, and realistic weight loss. Really important. So again, if you look at your 1, 2, and 3 that you commented on before, you can see how you can implement those into what can you measure, what are we going to do less of, and what are we going to do more of. So these habits help improve insulin sensitivity, and they can reduce that ectopic fat accumulation. So this final diagram really summarizes the entire concept. Fat is safely stored in our fat or in our adipose tissue until capacity is exceeded. And that point is called the personal fat threshold. And once that threshold is crossed, fat accumulates in the organs like the liver and the pancreas. And this leads to metabolic dysfunction, chronic illness, and type 2 diabetes. But this can be reduced, this can be reversed, this can be mitigated, right? By reducing your ectopic fat, you can move yourself back below your threshold and restore your metabolic health. So let's start with this. Let's go back to what we started with. The same 2 people who weighed the same and had the same BMI, but one of them was below their personal fat threshold and the other one had already crossed it. And that difference, not just the body weight, is what determined their metabolic health outcomes. So when we think about metabolic disease, the question isn't how much fat does someone have? The real question is, where is that fat being stored? Now, I know we're going to have some time for Q&A later, and I'm sure you have a lot of them, so you can save them or write them down for later. And I'm going to turn this back over to Shannon. I'm going to stop my screen share, and hopefully...
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was incredible. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I hope everybody could understand all my scientific diagrams. And as I said, there's not going to be an exam, so I hope you just learned something and took it in. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thank you
for listening and playing along.
Hey, thank you. The best thing is if I can just hear you talk, so I can adopt that accent. That's all I want to do. By the end of this, I just want to talk like you. So guys, like, how incredibly inspiring that is, right? We often hate that muffin top that falls over our pants, but if you really think about it, it's really helping us. It's saving us, right? We need that. That is nature's way of keeping us healthy, right? It's keeping the fat out of our organs. And, how many of y'all are inspired now thinking, okay, I know I need to muscle train, right? Right. That's something that we all can
This meeting is being recorded.
And play a huge role at reversing our metabolic dysfunction. So I am going to share my screen now, and we are going to go into the presentation. So if y'all can see that, let me know. Everybody good? Okay, perfect. So you heard Mikkel talk, right? We talked about metabolic dysfunction. I want y'all to take a look at this list, and I want you to go through it, and I want you to think of yourself, and I want you to think of people that you know. And as you look at the things on this list, unfortunately, it's really hard for me to think of somebody that doesn't have something. And once you've learned all of these symptoms, it's really hard to not see. You'll be standing in the grocery store and you're like, oh gosh, that person has insulin resistance. And you're at the gym, that person has insulin resistance, right? 93% of our country struggles with this. That means that there's only 7% that does not have some form of insulin resistance. And as Mikkel just pointed out, guys, your weight does not indicate metabolic health. Okay, you can be thin and have visceral organ fat and be metabolically sick. Okay, but some of the most common ones, right? Type 2 diabetes. By the time it reaches that, it's been going on for 10 to 20 years, right? We don't like to talk about cancer, but over 95% of cancers are triggered and grow from sugar and insulin. Cancer cells have 7 times the insulin receptors on their surface. That means that's how they grow, right? PCOS, erectile dysfunction. We talked about fatty liver. Heart disease still remains the #1 cause of death. Guys, what causes heart disease? It's not cholesterol, it's not fat, it's not butter, and it's not eggs. It's type 2 diabetes. That's the #1 cause of heart disease, right? High blood pressure, y'all, is not a salt problem, okay? I mean, I pour salt on my tongue like it's candy. It's not a salt problem, right? So gout, neuropathy, skin tags, all of these things are really one thing. But how many medications do you think? Think about the meds that you take. You've got a diabetes med, a cholesterol med, a blood pressure med, a gout med, right? You may have migraine meds. You may have a med for your bowel problems. You may have an anti-inflammatory. Guys, they're all the same thing, okay? But why are we experiencing these? I mean, really think about it. Think about it like this. How many years have we been told to eat less? How many years have we been told to cut the fat out? How many years have we been told to stop eating salt? And what has happened? We've gotten sicker. There's more people that are struggling with this and more people on medication. So that should be the telltale sign that that's not the problem. Okay? This is the problem. The problem stems from people like me. Unfortunately, I was part of the problem because I was taught to teach you the wrong advice. And I'm sorry, but I know better now. And so your doctor has probably been taught the wrong advice too. Well, let me regress. Your doctor probably hasn't been taught anything about nutrition. Unfortunately, they've been taught a lot about medication and diagnoses, but very little about prevention. And so big food and big pharma play in the same playground, and their goal is to sell food, right? So how do we sell food? We make it taste good. We make it hyper palatable. We make it stimulate those dopamine receptors in our brain. And truly, you can't just eat one, a real legit thing, guys. It's not lack of willpower. It's not that you're weak or undisciplined. It's truly like they have created these products to be this way. And people like me, unfortunately, before I knew better, told you got to eat every 2 hours, because if your metabolism falls, you're going to go into starvation mode, and then that's not a good thing. Or your blood sugar is going to drop, but we know better, right? So fiber was taken out of food. Why? Well, you heard Mikhail just say that the more fiber you eat, the better blood sugars, controlled your blood sugars are, the more satiated you are, the better gut health you have, right? So if you eat fiber, you're not going to eat as much. You're not going to eat as often, right? Okay. And food doesn't last so long on the shelf if it has fiber. So food companies, restaurants, why do you think you eat in the dark? Why do you think you get a basket of bread or crackers or chips on your table when you first get there? Because those are carbs. Carbs spike glucose. Glucose goes up, insulin goes up. Guess what? That pulls your glucose down and you want to eat more food. So when we remove fiber, we eat more. We don't get satisfied. We spike our blood sugar and we start the process of metabolic dysfunction. But guys, it's not all doom and gloom. We have tools to fight back at this. And it's not a grit or a willpower or white knuckling it. How do we fight back? Well, we reintroduce what they took out. Fiber, right? Mikhail talked about including fiber. Guess what? This pack right here is 4 grams of fiber. And if we want to get a minimum of 9 each day, you start with 2 packs, eat some fruits and vegetables. You've got that covered. So what is this? This has been a life changer for me. This little pack right here dropped my triglycerides from 250 down to 50, okay? And while I'm going through this, if you have been on this system, you've heard Mark talk, you just heard a little bit about me. Put in the comments so people that are brand new here can see what this has done. And we'll kind of go through these comments after I get through this because I can't see them while my screen's up. But this right here has 7 different types of soluble and insoluble fibers in it. Why is that important? Think of this like a fish net, okay? When you look at a fish net, you see the netting like this, right? The net is the insoluble fiber, okay? Think of a net that gets kelp and seaweed all entangled in it. And so now it's like this because it's all like stopped up. That's the soluble fiber. That's what gels up, okay? So that forms an impenetrable membrane, kind of like a barrier in your GI system. So when you eat carbs, it blunts that blood sugar response, even more than metformin, right? And what else does it do? If you look down there at that bottom right, the Cleveland Clinic studied this and said it actually could replace lipid-lowering meds. So it lowers cholesterol, okay? It lowers triglycerides, the fat that we don't want. It improves gut health. Why? Because fiber is food for our gut microbiome. So if we can lower glucose, then that means insulin will come down, right? If we can improve our gut health, guys, our mental health is directly connected to our gut health. Our thyroid function is directly connected to our gut health. We don't talk about that enough. So if we can keep our gut healthy, we're going to help keep our mind healthy. So you'll notice less anxiety. What's also connected to our gut health is our skin. And I don't have to say it, but diarrhea, constipation, gas, bloating, that's the telltale sign of poor gut health, right? So consuming this prior to your meal is going to help you eat less. It's going to help you get fuller faster, stay fuller longer, and it's going to help keep that glucose more controlled, okay? The second part of this protocol is a tea. I am drinking it right here. It is fantastic. I call this willpower in a packet. What does it do? It contains a compound called chlorogenic acid. Now, I don't know how many of y'all have heard of chlorogenic acid. If you have, put that in the comments because even as a dietitian, I was like, what is chlorogenic acid? It's amazing. It should be labeled as a superfood, okay? This is a concentrated source of chlorogenic acid. If you Google chlorogenic acid, you'll see antioxidant. You'll see anti-inflammatory. And guys, those of you that have inflammation in your body, you ain't seen nothing yet till you try this. because this encourages our liver to make more glutathione. Glutathione is the most potent antioxidant in our body. And as we age, we lose that production. This kind of boosts it up. So you'll see less inflammation. You'll see better recovery after workouts. It's an anti-carcinogenic. That means anti-cancer, right? It's an antiviral, antibacterial. Here's a couple other things. It is an insulin sensitizer. We want that. We want our cells sensitive to insulin because the less insulin we have to make, the less work our pancreas has to do, and the less fat our body stores, okay? Also, it increases GLP-1. Y'all may have heard of GLP-1, just maybe, right? Unfortunately, it's the top selling drug of all time, and we're going to continue to hear about it. But what does it do? It takes away hunger. It shuts off the food noise. Now, it comes with some side effects, right? But this does not. Why? Because it's using our own body's GLP-1, right? It's boosting our own up 60 to 70%. So you don't have to white knuckle it. You do not have to use willpower to push away the plate. You heard Mark say he started this and his diet just started to change, right? He started to organically crave healthier foods. It gives you great energy. How many of y'all drink caffeine or energy drinks because you need that first thing in the morning? Like your coffee is the first thing you reach for. This right here, I didn't even try to quit drinking coffee. Now, I will be transparent and say I don't drink caffeine. I did not drink coffee because I drink decaf, but I don't even drink that anymore. And so I love this stuff because of the energy, and because I don't practice what I preach. I do not get my 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I am often very sleep deprived, and I can drink this right here and I can stay on par and productive. So for those of you who are looking for energy, right here, okay? So how do you use it? We like to couple it with time-restricted eating. Now, what does time-restricted eating mean? It means a lot of things, okay? If you don't intermittent fast, I do not want you to say, I can't use this. Because intermittent fasting is, we have a big time frame, 12 to 16 hours. Some people skip breakfast. Like for me, I have just started eating a little bit for breakfast. I was skipping breakfast. I was going to bed, having my dinner, and then not eating till noon the next day. You know what? I want to change it up a little bit. So I'm having breakfast. I'm just not snacking. I'm having 3 small meals. Some people may have 1 meal. Some people may have 2 meals. So whatever works best for you, the point is we don't need all this snacking every 2 to 3 hours. We need to eat our meals. We need to eat sufficiently at our meals. We need to eat good things like Mikhail pointed out at our meals, protein, fiber, and good healthy fats, okay? Build your plate around that. So I get up in the morning and I drink this and I sip on it. I use it during my workouts. Then I eat my meal, okay? Then I'll drink another one throughout the day. Now, for me, because I'm obsessed with this stuff, I drink one of these before each meal, okay? If you saw my closet, you think I have a hoarding problem. And maybe I do, okay? But it's all for a good cause. So I drink one of these before each meal. I mix it up with a little bit of water. I'd shake, I'd chug it, and I drink it before each meal. I have another one in the afternoon. Why? Because I think the afternoon time, people kind of get a little tired or they get a little munchy, right? Have this, and then I mix this up. I have dinner. And guys, we even have a chocolate mint brownie that's decaf that tastes like hot chocolate. So in night, instead of eating some chocolate, I just mix that up and drink me a little cup of that, and I'm golden. Now, you heard Mark, you heard his live testimony, and I've asked if anybody else has a testimony that they want to put it in the chat, and we'll go through them. So I have been a part of this since the end of 2022, and I will tell you, I've probably seen no less than 1,000 testimonials. I can open up my phone right now to no less than, I think there's 1,700 pictures of screenshots of testimonials or pictures of people whose lives have been profoundly changed by incorporating this natural protocol. Here's the best bet, y'all. There are no side effects. There are no interactions. It does not interact with your meds. It's food. So it's safe to use in conjunction with your doctor about how to adjust your medication as your labs improve, because they will, okay? Which means that's a great thing. It means you don't need the medication. And it's safe. We have women that are pregnant that use it. We have children that use it. We have nursing moms that use it. We have elderly people that use it. So it is not something to be afraid of. It's just food. It's just a tea and it's just a fiber, but it tastes really good. You don't have to hold your nose and shove it down. And that's truly it for the protocol. So let me get out of here so I can read some of these testimonials from people. Okay, let me scroll up. Okay, did people not put, maybe I'm not seeing this. Guys, did y'all put your testimony in the chat? Am I not seeing it? Let me scroll back up. Okay, someone said they have not had any diet soda in 19 days. That's amazing, because I used to be a Diet Coke was like my drug, and I haven't had a Diet Coke in a year. Reversed acid reflux and esophagitis, triglycerides down, 19 pounds gone, look younger than I did 20 years ago. Okay. Balance has helped my appetite, no diarrhea, no gut acid. Let's see. I'm trying to, down 28 pounds. I've lost inflammation in my hands, joints, no more brain fog, sleeping better, more focus. All right. Down 12 pounds in the first month. I feel amazing, sleeping better, and I'm not constantly nauseous anymore. Dr. Urban said he's dropped 6% body weight. Crystal, she's been on it for 3 years. She's down 60 pounds. Her insulin resistance score went from 3.6 to 0.6. And I also know, because I know Crystal, she suffers from Hashimoto's. And Crystal, remind me, but I think your antibodies were over 3,000. And now I want to say they're less than 20. All 4 antidepressants after 25 years. No more IBS, chronic fatigue, skin tags, hair loss, or painful periods. Down 30 pounds. Blood panel almost perfect. Better sleep, better energy. No more neuropathy. Testosterone, guys, raised by 480 points. You might want to hear that one. Triglycerides down from 140 to 50. Let's see. All right. This is, okay, I used to have severe insomnia. No more insomnia. This, all right. Okay. Well, that is, I'm going to stop reading, and I'm going to open it up for questions. Mikhail, I'll bring you back on in case people have some questions. But guys, truly, you have nothing to lose. You do get a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if anybody is on here and who's not tried this and just really unsure, it's FSA, HSA approved, which is very beneficial. But it's been life-changing for myself, so much so that I left corporate world to go share this with the entire world, because I truly believe it is the solution to the world's biggest problem that no one knows about. And it's changing and saving people's lives. So I will open that up to questions. Let's see. Okay, where do I get the tea? Veronica, reach out to the person who invited you. You will get a discount link. So if you order from somebody that has a discount link, it will save you close to $80. Okay. Can you have more than 2 Unimate a day? Yes. Sometimes I drink 4. Right. Let's see. The recording, Shirley, reach out to the person who invited you and they'll share the recording. Suzanne, I use 2 Metamucil a day. Should I stop that? Suzanne, I would much prefer you to use a fiber that's clean, a fiber that's multi-sourced, and that has clinical studies to show that it works. Ask anybody that's ever used Metamucil if it's helped reverse their type 2 diabetes. I'm going to get an astounding no. But I know thousands of people at this point whose this pack right here, whose life has been changed. Okay. Can you just have the fiber pack without eating? Bonnie, you sure can. All right. Does it matter how fast you drink your Unimate? Mikhail, you want to answer that one?
Well, no, but depending on what you need, right? Sometimes in the morning it's nice to drink it. Some people like it really ice cold, so you can drink it fast. If you tend to struggle with cravings, though, I find, and I know Shannon will second me on this, that sipping on it throughout the morning or throughout the afternoon, that time when you know that little voice in your head goes, feed me, just sipping on it can really help to continuously trigger your own GLP-1 production. So your body is telling that little voice, go away, child. It's okay. We're all good. We're all well fed. But as I said, it really becomes personal. In the morning, I actually like my hot chocolate mint brownie in the morning instead of my hot cup of coffee, and I'll sip on that until it gets cold because I like it. I like it really hot, and it's nice to sip on. But my husband, on the other hand, likes his really ice cold, and I'll see him chug it down, and I'll say, "I want to drink that slow. Isn't that going to give you hiccups?"
Yeah.
He likes it that way, and he finds it really effective. So I think what I'm trying to say, long answer to short question, one of the best things about this product is you can make it fit your lifestyle and your preferences, right? There's lots of different flavors. Drink it hot or cold. Have one balance, 2 balances, 3 balances. Have it with your first meal, your last meal. Drink Unimates any time that you want. 1 is fine, but 2 is better. And if you want to do 3 or 4 or 6, I think Trent once told us that he did 8, or somebody told us that they did a whole bunch. And I know I once did 2 of them back to back. And it wasn't a caffeine wide. My brain was on absolute fire. So again, just up to you, Shannon. I don't know if you'd add to that, but that would be my answer.
The only thing I'm going to add, guys, there's some new studies that are a new study that is coming out. I think you're going to find extremely exciting. A study was done on people that drink Unimate versus a placebo 90 minutes before a meal. They were both given the same meal, okay? And it was mixed macronutrients, right? So mixed for carbs, protein, and fat, and they could eat as much as they want. The people that drank the Unimate ate 150 calories or 15% less per meal than the people that had the placebo. Just think about that. If you changed nothing, if you ate 3 meals a day and you drink this 90 minutes before your meal, that's 450 calories a day times a year. That's 49 pounds a year without trying, without doing a thing different, without changing your food. That is profound, okay? Profound. Let me go down to the bottom. Eye floaters. So I don't think that it directly gets rid of eye floaters, but eye floaters are a sign of high glucose, of glycation, of diabetes. So by improving that, those symptoms may improve. So let me see. All right. So what if you don't need to lose weight? Brenda, I have been on this for over 3.5 years. You can see me. I've not lost 1 pound. Okay. So if you don't need to lose weight, Mikhail's been on it. Mikhail doesn't need to lose weight. It's not going to automatically make you lose weight, but it does make you feel great. It does improve. My triglycerides were terrible. So just because your weight is normal or low doesn't mean you're metabolically healthy. But just because you take this doesn't mean that you're going to lose weight either. We do have people that were very underweight. Because we've improved their gut health, they're able to absorb their nutrients and nutrition better. They feel better. They've actually put on weight. So it really, truly is individual. And can you add another balance to your monthly protocol? You sure can. You sure can. Guys, you really can drink as many of these as you want. There is not a right or wrong way. I think the only wrong way is by not using it. Truly. All right. Let's see.
Crohn's. There's a question about Crohn's, Shannon.
Okay, you want to answer it, or you want me to?
It says, does the protocol help with Crohn's? And I was like,
Absolutely.
absolutely. That's a really short answer. Yes.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your participation. We are so incredibly blessed that you want to come on and learn about metabolic health. Share this with someone that you know and love. Reach out to the person who invited you if you want more information or if you want the recording. But we are on here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern to share truly the solution to the world's biggest problem, which is insulin resistance. And we need each and every one of you on here to share it and tell somebody else about it. So God bless all of you. I hope you have an amazing night, and thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Shannon.